So, any more information that you can think of to give the people a little more knowledge about the vaccine to like ease their mind? Because right now, definitely in the Black community, a lot of people are skeptical about the vaccine. I try to break it down to them, let them know, hey, this vaccine is going to be like just like any other. With the side effects is going to be very similar. We are in a pandemic, so right now we need to make sure that we have herd immunity, that as many people get immunized as possible. Any other tidbits or information?
There's a few things I want to touch on because again, this is a lot of we're fortunate to be at a position where we have a ton of friends and family members that are not within the medical community, and we have a host of friends that are. And one of the questions I got, and one of the questions I had is, why does the vaccine seem rushed? I think going through the process of how a vaccine is even developed and why it takes so long in the first place. If you are in any organization, you had to go through a process to get something approved, you realize that there's a ton of time wasted waiting on other people to make a decision. Not on your standpoint, but on other people. For example, going through getting a drug out of the PNT, getting to the formulation of PNT. You have to go through all these meetings and people are nitpicking certain aspects of what you have before them that doesn't have much weight on the drug itself. There's a process that just takes too long for the most part. Vaccine development, drug development. There are so many steps that occur sequentially that are financially based. So if a drug company makes a particular product, they're going to make sure they test it, do these different things up front to limit the loss of money. And there's like 3 or 4 steps that can occur that doesn't usually happen, at the same time, because of if all of it flops, you lose money completely. That process is not an issue now. There's a lot of money that the drug companies don't have to put forward to go forward. So now, if I don't have a process of losing money while making this product, I'm going to be able to move forward and get these processes done. All the studies were actually done. Everyone said, was their phase 1 trials done? Yes, I went through and pulled every single study, had phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 studies. They got the information approved prior to this. Another question I got was, it doesn't seem that many people were tested. There was over 70,000 just in the 2 vaccines, just the 2 that's been approved here. There's probably, and I looked at this prior to this, there's over 100 vaccines that was in development.
Yeah, it was
over 100. Now, just in America, we have over 2 million people, vaccinated. So everyone's waiting to see like, oh, we don't have this here, and then we don't have the safety. We have a vaccine adverse effect recording system that's currently in place as well to continue to monitor for these side effects that most people don't really know about. So we have the data, we have the information a lot more so. And then from is it even effective? I think most people want to know, what does 90 to 95% effective even mean? And looking at the studies, I think it is what we need to make sure we're clear on is saying that within our community, what effective mean is symptomatic COVID. So you have symptoms of fatigue, shortness of breath, headache, all those things, plus you test positive. What it does not mean, and what was not studied in those 2 particular vaccines within the studies they published, was asymptomatic spread. So I'm not going to sit here and try to sugarcoat it and say that we have data that if you get this vaccine, you cannot get it. Mm-hmm. There's a few others, the Oxford studies, which I believe may be the next vaccine that may be approved in America, because I think just 2 days ago it was approved in Europe. They have data that says that within their studies, there's a 60% reduction in asymptomatic testing of COVID. Granted, I don't mean that they can just go out and not wear masks and do these other things, because that's what they have in place right now in Europe. But the study that Oxford did looked at every week, you got a nose sample and you sent it out every single week. You said, did you have symptoms or not? They didn't have symptoms, but they tested positive. A significant amount of those individuals did not have COVID compared to that got the vaccine compared to those that did not. So 60% is what we usually see in flu data. Yeah. We've been giving flu shots for years. That's a standard now. If that data can be replicated in larger studies and larger, what the vaccines that we have now, I think we have something that may get us closer and closer to being back outside back doing the things that we usually can do in the future again, especially if we get vaccinated at a higher rate. So it's effective within preventing you from getting symptoms. It's very effective in preventing you from getting severe symptoms, going to the ICU, intubation, things of that nature. And again, in those populations that they're studied. So we're going to have more answers to these questions. We know from right now that what safe means is that you can have headache, fever, and chills. What safe means is that there's not many people passing out and dying just because of the COVID vaccine. We know that we're not going a third leg or something like that. We know it effective means, and we know that we have more questions to answer.
Yeah. One thing that you hit on that I want to go back to. You started off this segment and you said people were talking about this vaccine was made pretty fast. It usually went down like how this time with this vaccine, because we were in a pandemic, certain litigations, certain things were able to get through a little faster. They didn't have to go through the waiting period to make sure that the paperwork and everything was correct. And I don't say correct, was they didn't have to take as much time and litigation just to make sure that every step, and they was able to go through each step a little quicker with the data. They got the data real quick. They got the phase 1 done properly and was able to move on to phase 2 properly, and they were just expedited. Just reassuring that the people that, hey, this vaccine has went through the proper procedures and processes. It was just expedited slightly.
Yeah. In the fact that, again, if there wasn't much dead space, I like to call it. It's just paperwork wasn't sitting around, because it was the weekend or we had to take out for holidays. These vaccines were approved on the weekend.
Yeah.
If people weren't just hanging out, they got this things to do. So that also helped. But again, find people who own businesses, people who operate and deal with money. They understand what it is to move forward without the fear of losing money.
Yeah.
Things happen very quickly. And the last thing I forgot to mention, as far as in the designing of mRNA vaccine, is that we were fortunate to receive the genetic sequence of COVID from China back in January. We have technology now. Once we can get that sequence, that's the hard part. We got the cheat code. We got the code up front. And then we went back and was able to produce a small piece of that to produce a protein. That takes no time. They can do that now with the technology that we have from a computer standpoint. They can print that out in days.
Yeah.
So using mRNA and having that information moves it much quicker. So, and then the research that to do this, people have been doing it at MIT since the 80s. This ain't new. It's new to us because we're not into it. But if you look at the company Moderna, the last 3 letters are RNA. They've been out for years. So this is not a brand new structure. People have been using mRNA in different disease states, with HIV, with cancer for a period of time. But the way that they did it and the phases that they went through, it's not popularized. So I like to also caveat how we made this up. We got lucky by China broadcasting the DNA sequence, and we had like a head start on that standpoint.
Yeah.